Okay, it's 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Cash market is closed. Let's talk about this for a minute. Let's take a look at some things. Clearly, today is an important day. We have the big news. We had the earnings yesterday. The market reacted positively to that. We had the Fed announcement today. The market appears to be reacting positively to that. And we still have Globex and we have GDP in the morning. But based on the conviction today, I'd give the benefit of the doubt as we head into Globex to the upside. Now, after this GDP, things should clear up considerably unless they just reverse this, which would be very negative, by the way. The unequivocal negative event that would be immediately bearish would be if these indices turn around now and take out today's session lows. Ideally, we won't retrace much more than we're retracing right now, and we'll take out today's high following the GDP. We're off to the races into these higher levels. Let's just take each one. Now, these are the futures contracts. I'll show the cash contracts in just a minute. Now, here's the ES, and if we were to, this 1294 you see is about the same, would be about the same magnitude of the largest rally we've had since the January high, and that would come in right at about 4,100. So 4,100 is going to be the next magical round number everybody fixates on. But in general, from 4,100 up and to the 531 high, Brent high, that is near another magical round number, 4,200. So I would expect, based on information at hand at this point in time, that we're going to trade up into this 4,100 level and maybe even test 4,200 in the ES. Okay, if we look at, let's take the NQ. Now, the NQ showed a lot of relative strength and has traded deeply into actually the midpoint of this volume node that was formed around that June high. Now, it did not take out the high of a few days ago, the 22nd, but again, it has led the charge up. It has led the charge higher. It was certainly higher today. A lot of conviction in the NQ to the upside. Let's look at the Russell. A lot of upside conviction in the Russell. The next level begins at about 1886 or so. And of course, that's a volume node that includes this June high. The Dow, YM, I should say. So it is, here's the equivalent level in the YM. It has a little bit of ways to go to get up in here, but there's really nothing between today's high and really the high of the 9th. So again, based on everything at hand, I would expect higher prices immediately. The heads up that that's wrong is if we get this big, deep retracement into today's session range. And confirming that it's wrong is if all four of the indices take out today's session lows. Again, that would be very bearish, at least very bearish, at least short term. All right, let's look at the cash markets. Now, these levels are in the report that I sent out over the weekend. The levels are still good. And they're basically, these are the cash levels as I just discussed for the futures markets. Another piece of the puzzle that we always discuss, breadth. Breadth was very strong today. Among the highest readings that we've seen in a while. I'm not going to, this says 2036. I'm not sure what this was or what this was, but today is a very strong day. Now, ideally, we'll follow through to the upside. Something that is interesting, if we are able to trade higher over the next few days into the end of the week and maybe even the early part of next week, that would very likely put the 10-day moving average of advancing issues at an extreme level into as the market is reaching an important upside key level. I don't want to get too far ahead of things, but that might set up an interesting situation. I'd be a little bit surprised. Actually, I'd be quite surprised if we were to just blow through the June highs without some sort of pushback in this area. Now, VIX, and I've been talking about VIX for weeks, and I have been discussing the fact that it could add fuel to the fire if it continues to drop. And indeed, it does continue to drop. Now, did not quite take out the low from the other day, but it is sloping lower very sharply. This has implications for dealer hedging, option gamma, all of those things. I will be a little bit surprised if option gamma did not flip positive today. That has implications as to how the market typically trades. It has implications as to how dealers trade. But all of that is factored into what we do every single day in the live trade room. The levels are levels, and you see that through price action, regardless of what might be creating those levels. The levels are the levels. So as we head into Globex, I would have a positive bent on this market. Now, you'll see what happens in Globex. We'll see what happens following that GDP report. We'll have a report out again, as you guys are aware, in the morning prior to GDP. And then, of course, we will track this live in the live trade room. You guys have a wonderful evening, and I will see you in the morning.